Hi everyone, and welcome back to the PokeTamer channel, where we buy and sell Pokemon cards on eBay. Our main goal is to make a profit, but we're not taking things too seriously. Today, we're diving into the 4th installment of the sales updates. We'll be looking back at what I've purchased recently and breaking down exactly what I've been selling in this profit and loss series. Then we'll chuck it all into the glorious spreadsheet and see if we finally made it into that beautiful green. But as I always say, I can't do a video without opening up something, and today we've got this giant box. A completely unnecessary giant box, can I add, because I already know what's inside, and trust me, it does not need to be this big. Someone is definitely overcompensating. So let's quickly whip it out, then open the package. Whee, lads. And yes, for all of you wondering, I do have a college degree in art. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know my love for Vault X binders. It's an unrequited love though. There's no sponsorship here. Balls in your court, Vault X.
Send me free things.
But seriously, they're great quality and actually resell really well. Even empty, they hold a decent amount of value. I paid $14.99 for this one with free postage, which is about $19, and that's not bad for an empty binder, except this one isn't empty. It came with one full page, so 9 cards, and 2 of them are absolute vintage bangers. But I'm going to be a tease and save that for the end. Let's warm up before the main event, and my go-to technique for getting things hot: big old Excel spreadsheet. Pure filth. If you haven't already, I'd definitely recommend going back and watching the other 3 sales videos to get fully up to date with where we're at in this current profit and loss series. Last time we left things at minus £176 or roughly $220, which isn't exactly ideal, but it's slowly improving and I can definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's kick things off by adding in our recent purchases. So far in this series, we have spent £574 on Pokemon cards, and that's about $718, which is a decent chunk of change. My last entry was that awful fake card bundle, so hopefully we do a bit better this time. First up, we had the vintage tin with 220 plus vintage cards. Honestly, really enjoyed this one. It was so much fun to open up that Topps tin and go through all of those great Wizards of the Coast cards. One of the main reasons I love Pokemon cards is the nostalgia, and looking back at all these sets from when I was a kid, I would love to find more like this one. As I've mentioned before, each purchase has its own dedicated video, so if this one piques your curiosity, definitely go back and check out the full thing for more details. This one cost me £32 with £3.50 postage for a total of £35.50, which is about $44. A fair bit of money, but probably my best profit so far once I sold the cards. Next up, we had the sketchy binder. I picked this one up for £10 with £4 postage, bringing the total to £14 or about $17. This was actually the second video where I picked up a binder full of fake cards and had a little gamble hoping a few would be real. I went through a phase where I was picking up so many fake cards, it was unintentionally becoming like a cornerstone of this channel, but it's worth the risk this time, and we actually found some legit gems, including a Marnie full art from Sword and Shield base, which was surprisingly in pristine condition, and a holo Charizard from XY Evolutions. Both sold for a pretty decent price, so stay tuned for that. Next, we had the 2 bundles of Heart Gold and Soul Silver cards, which are combined into a binder to see how popular the set would be. I love these cards. The artworks and the gold and silver borders, I think, make the era really unique, but I wasn't too sure about their resale value, so this was sort of an experiment. Now, package 1 was a mixed bundle of various sets that cost me £16.49 with free postage, so a total of £16.49 or about $21. But plot twist, I didn't actually pay that much because a few of the better cards mysteriously went missing, so I ended up getting an £8 refund, bringing the actual total to just £8.49. Package 2 was another bundle of Heart Gold Soul Silver cards, which cost me £4.20 with £3 postage, so a total of £7.20 or about $9. Like I said, really love the Heart Gold Soul Silver era. The artworks are top tier, so looking through them was a lot of fun. Next up, we had the fake tin with, you guessed it, fake cards. I went through it, tried to pick out the real ones to see if there was any money to be made. Unfortunately, all the supposed hit cards turned out to be fake. Not really sure what I was expecting there, but we did manage to pull a couple of genuine decent cards like the Holo Ditto promo from XY. I paid $14.99 for the tin with £2.94 postage, bringing the total to £17.93 or about $23. I took a bit of a risk on this one, and honestly, I'm not sure it really paid off. In that same video, I revealed a new graded card for my personal collection, a Topps Sandslash PSA 7. I absolutely love this card, and hopefully one day I'll be able to upgrade it to a PSA 10. But for now, I'm just really happy to finally own one. I paid £10 with £2.70 postage, bringing the total to £12.70 or about $16. Unfortunately, no profit here though, since this one's for me to keep, so it'll count as a straight up loss. Finally, we have our latest video where I opened up 4 packages, one containing a beaten up vintage binder and the other 3 filled with various bundles of vintage cards. In this video, we cleaned up the binder, loaded it up with the cards, and then sold it to see if we could turn a profit. So package 1 contained the binder itself. I only paid 99p, but with £2.94p postage, the total came to £3.93p, which is about $5. The binder was absolutely filthy, so we gave it a good clean, tidied it up, and honestly, I think it ended up looking pretty decent. Package 2 cost me 99p with £1.55p postage, making it £2.54p or around $3.50. It had a mix of fake and real cards, including a completely battered Machamp Holo from base set and a nice Sneasel from Neo Genesis. Package 3 was a random mix of vintage cards, not in the best condition. It included a non-holo Moltres from Fossil that looked like someone had been practicing their origami with it. This one cost me £4.93p with £3.50 postage, bringing the total to £8.43p or about $10.50. Nothing crazy here, just some decent binder filler. Package 4 was a bundle of Fossil era cards costing £6.50 with £2.99p postage for a total of £9.49p or roughly $12. The highlights here were a Raichu non-holo in fairly decent condition and a Muck holo that I'd class as heavy play. We'll get to what that binder sold for shortly, so stay tuned. And let's not forget today's package. I'm going to quickly add that to the list. As I mentioned earlier, this cost me £14.99p with free postage, which is about $19. Really excited to open this one up later. Hopefully it's as good as it looks. So after adding all of our recent purchases, we can see the total amount spent has now increased to £709 or about $887. That means if we head over to the summary page, we now need to make at least £311.51p from the sales to finally get into the green in today's video. Can we do it? Let's find out. Yes, finally it's time for the sales. Let's take a closer look at how things have been going. Last time we finished off with the Holo Meganium from Neo Genesis with total sales sitting at £398 or roughly $497. If you've been following the series, you'll definitely recognise some of these recent sales. I've been taking you through the full process from buying to selling in one video, but there are definitely a few surprises here that I haven't fully shown yet, so let's dive in. Let's start big. First up, we have the vintage binder from the vintage tin video, where I took the cards from the tin, popped them straight into the binder and sold it for an insane amount. If you've seen the video, you already know what happened, but I was seriously shocked by how much it went for. The tin itself cost me £35 and I ended up selling the binder for £108.99p. After the fees, that gave us a profit of £104 or roughly $134. Honestly, I didn't think it was worth that much, especially since I didn't even include all of the cards from the tin. I kept a bunch of the Rocket set to sell separately at a later date. This is definitely one of the most successful sales, though I'll be honest, they don't all turn out like this one. So next up we have the Jinx Reverse Holo from Legendary Collection. I managed to grab this beauty in a bundle of cards that cost me £9.60p. The bundle had a few decent hits in it, but the Jinx was definitely the standout. And this one actually sat on a buy it now for quite a while. I didn't want to put it up for auction because I figured it wasn't a super sought after card. I did reduce the price a couple of times to get it moving, and eventually it sold for £27.65p. Minus postage fees, I made a profit of £26. So I'm pretty happy with that, even though it took a bit of time to shift. Next up, we have the Heart Gold Soul Silver binder, which we put together in the Heart Gold Soul Silver video, where we opened up 2 packages. I've already mentioned what this one sold for in that video, but to be honest, I was a bit disappointed. I thought this set would be a bit more sought after, but it didn't really get the attention I expected. In the end, it sold for £20.75p. After deducting fees like postage and VAT, we made a profit of £18, or roughly $23. It's not a terrible price, but I had higher hopes for it. I really loved this set and the artwork on the cards, so I thought the market might feel the same, but it didn't quite turn out that way. Still, it was a fun experiment and good to see how it performed. We know going into the future, I just get to keep the Heart Gold Soul Silver cards because it's not worth selling them. Next up, we had the Marnie Full Art from Sword and Shield base set, pulled from the sketchy binder that only cost me $17. This was such a great find and a huge surprise for me, especially considering the condition it was in. I decided to auction it, which in hindsight might not have been the best move. I should have gone for a buy it now and waited a bit longer, but my impatience got the better of me and I started the auction at £25 and it ended up selling for £28.70p. After fees, that gave us a profit of £26 or around $33. It was right around the market price at the time, but I feel like I might have been able to squeeze a few more pounds out of it just because the condition was so nice. With my zero knowledge on grading, I'm 110% sure it was guaranteed 9 with 10 potential. Still, can't complain, it was a great little bonus from that binder. From the same binder, we have the Charizard Holo from XY Evolutions up next. The condition of this card was pretty decent. There was just one corner with a bit of wear, but the rest of it seemed pretty solid, and once again I decided to auction it, but since it's a Charizard, it did pretty well. People are always hunting for Zards. I started the auction at £35 and it ended up selling for £42.70p. After fees, that gave us a profit of £40, or roughly $51. Again, this was pretty much around the market price at the time, so I'm really happy with that sale too. It's good to see both the Marnie and Charizard selling for their market prices, even at auction. And speaking of market prices, this brings me on to another subject, a new update that eBay recently introduced in the UK for sellers. So I said it's a change for selling, but technically it's more a change for buying. However, it definitely impacts sellers too. So eBay recently removed selling fees in the UK, but they have now introduced a buyer protection fee, a percentage of the sale price that the buyer pays, similar to Vinted's model. On top of that, sellers no longer get paid immediately after a sale. Now you have to wait until the item is marked as delivered, which you can only achieve with tracked delivery. That's fine for higher value items, but if you're selling a card for 99p, will the buyer really want to pay £2.70 for tracked shipping? If you go untracked, you've got a minimum wait of 2 weeks before it is automatically marked as delivered. You're also relying on the buyer being honest, and if they claim it didn't arrive, you might not get paid at all. While it's still technically free to sell on eBay, the extra costs that the buyer now has to pay can make low value sales tricky. If you list a card for £2, the buyer might have to pay £5.50 for that card after fees and shipping, which could drive them to platforms like TCG Player or Card Market, where the total cost is lower. As a seller, you can either lower your prices to offset these costs or risk longer payment waits with untracked shipping. It's less of an issue for big sales, but for cheaper cards, it definitely affects profitability. Food for thought. Okay, rant over. Let's move on to the next sale. Next up, from the same binder as the previous two cards, we have the Lugia EX from Legendary Treasures. Now let me start by saying this card was absolutely battered. To say this was in a heavily played condition would be kind. I wasn't sure if there would be any interest in it, but I figured why not. I threw it up for auction starting at 99p, expecting it to remain unsold. Just as a comparison, a good condition version of this card goes for about $14. To my surprise, it did sell. The buyer paid £4.40p, but the actual winning bid was only £1.70, or about $2. So when you break it down, the new fees took up about 60% of what the buyer was willing to pay. As I've mentioned, as a seller, I didn't have to cover these costs since they're passed on to the buyer, but still, would the winning bid have been more than £1.70 if the postage and fees were lower? Probably. These changes really do affect sellers too. Sure, I could have opted for untracked postage to save on fees, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm just not willing to take that risk, especially when eBay withholds payment until the item is marked as delivered. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this new system sort of plays out in the long run. Okay, sorry, I promised the rant was over and I've just carried it on. On to the next sale. Next up, we have the Magnemite Secret Rare from Cosmic Eclipse. I pulled this card from the sketchy binder I purchased for $17. Apparently this is where all my good cards are coming from at the moment. When I filmed the video, the card was valued at about $5, but it's been steadily increasing in price, so I figured it was a good time to sell. According to TCG Player, this card is now valued at $9, and the winning bid was £7.50, which is pretty much bang on the current market value. However, here's the interesting bit. With added fees, the buyer actually ended up paying £10.20, or about $13. So in this case, the buyer actually paid above market price for the card because of the added buyer protection fee and postage. So obviously, I'm really happy with this sale, but aside from all that, I can see why this card is going up in value. It's a great artwork. Next up, we have a bit of an unexpected one, a partially complete Keldeo EX Battle Arena deck. So this deck came from the mixed bundle I opened in the Heart Gold Soul Silver video, which ended up costing me £8. It was the one that got partially refunded due to some missing cards. Inside the bundle, I found this deck, which included the Keldeo EX and a couple of Blastoise cards, among others. At the time, I sort of overlooked this, and I wasn't sure of its value as it was a pretty niche product. I had a hard time finding some comps, so I decided to just list it on a buy it now. To my surprise, it sold pretty quickly, and I got £7.50 for it, or about $9. The buyer ended up paying £11.46p, including postage and fees. While I'm not entirely sure if £7.50 was the best price for this deck, I am happy with it because it covered nearly all of the cost of the bundle it came from. Finally, we have our latest video where we took 4 packages and filled a vintage binder with a bunch of cards. If you watched that video, then you already know we did okay, but just okay. It wasn't anything crazy, but we made a bit of profit. If the cards weren't so battered, I think we would have done better. We ended up selling the binder for £33.97p, and after fees made a profit of £29.15p, or roughly $37. This binder had so much potential. On eBay it ended up with about 50 watchers, but only about 7 bids. I think people just weren't willing to take the risk on such a heavily played bundle. So there we go, and this now takes the total sold in this series so far to £658, which is roughly $822. Now if we head over to the summary page, you can see we're still in the red, but we're so close to getting into the green. Only £51.66p left to go. We keep inching closer and closer each week. I'm feeling confident we'll get there, especially since I still have plenty of cards left to sell. Actually, just take a look at this for a second. I am so bad with selling. Everything in here is from this profit and loss series. I need to sell all of this still. So much modern bulk in here. Look at all of this evolving skies. But we also have tons of vintage left to go. I'm so lazy. I love buying, but the selling is effort. Like I say, this isn't a business for me, just a fun little hobby, so I only sell when I'm in the mood for it or I need the cash. I think this is going to be the last sales update before the final one at the end of the entire series. My goal is to wrap things up by the beginning of June, so that the whole process will have taken about 12 months buying and selling on eBay. After that, I'm going to move on to a brand new series. Now, back to today's package, the Vault X binder, which came with some crazy cards inside. Honestly, I'm not sure why it was priced so low with these cards included. It was listed as a buy it now, and I think I just got lucky, being the first one to grab it. Like I mentioned, it cost me $19, which is around the cost of the binder alone. Let's open this baby up. Weird. Also not true, I have big, masculine hands. My hands tell a story of greatness. As you can see, I flipped all the cards over so we can get those mystery tingles. You know what I'm talking about. That tingling sensation you get in anticipation of a surprise. It's up your left arm, followed by the chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea, just classic mystery tingles. We're going to reveal them one by one. We're starting with the least expensive and working our way up to the most expensive, all according to TCG Player. Keep in mind, TCG prices are just estimates, and some of these cards were hard to price accurately because their values fluctuate quite a bit on the various pricing websites and even on eBay. So I've done my best to give you the most accurate estimates possible. First up, we have a Combuskin Reverse from EX Dragon, another e-reader card, and I'm always happy to get cards from this era. This one is valued at about $1, I think, especially in this condition. I think all of the cards in this binder have seen better days, but that doesn't take away from how nice they are. Next up, we have a Marshtomp Reverse from the same EX Dragon set as the Combuskin. This one is slightly more valuable at probably just over $1, but again it's held back by its condition. It's definitely seen better days. Our next card is a Zoroark, a promo card from the black and white era, valued at approximately $1 again. This one's actually pretty clean, it's quite a nice condition, but I just don't think there's a lot of value in this particular black and white promo. Our next card is Giovanni's Magikarp from Gym Challenge, with the unlimited version sitting at around $1 again. I really like this card, but then I also really like the set from Gym Challenge, so I might be biased. And then let's reveal our next one. It is a Lieutenant Surge's Pikachu from Gym Heroes. The unlimited version is worth roughly $2. We're finally getting into the big bucks here. Again, love this card, love the set. Next up we have Giovanni's Exile, a full art from Sun and Moon Hidden Fate set. Now this one's estimated at about $5, and again the condition looks quite nice. I don't know too much about this set or this card, but it looks pretty cool, and I always like getting a bit of texture on the cards. And our third from last card is Seadra Reverse Holo from Team Rocket Returns. Now this one was a bit tricky to price because being a reverse holo increases its value, and TCG Player doesn't really have solid data for it. So after checking eBay sold listings, I'd estimate it at around $8. It's a shame the condition isn't slightly better, but it's still an awesome card. So right, let's now move on to the final two. I mean, I could include that Seadra as a banger and say we got 3 great cards in this binder, but as great as it is, I really love these last 2. So our penultimate card is a Salamence Delta Species Holo from EX Delta Species. I mean, this card looks amazing. Prices are all over the place though. I feel confident estimating this one at around $10, but it's just such a cool card. I think Salamence is an awesome Pokemon anyway, but the fact it has that holo effect on it just makes it seem a little bit special. And the Delta Species cards are always fun. And finally, The last card in the binder is a Feraligatr Prime from the Heart Gold Soul Silver base set. Such a cool card again. Pricing for this one fluctuates, but I'm going to go with a safe estimate of $12. As you can see, the condition is probably the most battered out of all of them. It's got this big dent in the back here, but honestly, just being able to have a Prime card from the Heart Gold Soul Silver era is awesome. I love this one, and I think it will still hold its value regardless. Altogether, the 9 cards are priced at an estimated $40, and the binder itself can easily resell for $19 on its own. So we have pretty much made a profit on this of whatever we can sell the cards for. It might be less than our estimates, but still a fantastic purchase. And there we have it. That's the video done. See you later. No, I'd never leave you guys like that, especially without begging you all to subscribe and like the video. What sort of small YouTuber would I be if I wasn't thirsty for your interactions? Guys, please love me. But seriously, thank you all for watching and supporting this channel. It really does mean a lot to me. We wouldn't be where we are today without all of you. And speaking of begging for interactions, I've started a Discord server for this channel. You can find the link in the description. I've really enjoyed chatting with some of you through Instagram DMs and emails, but I figured it'd be better to have a dedicated spot where we can all interact and help each other out. The aim for it is to be like a casual, safe place where you can sort of ask any questions you want about your collection, reselling, or spotting fakes. Hopefully we'll get a nice mix of beginners and experts helping each other out. And you know, if nothing else, it's a great place to yell abuse at me without getting a YouTube account banned. Thank you to everyone who's joined so far. We also can't sign off without giving our loyal members a shout out. As always, a massive thanks to Avier, Pug, MSwee, Mr. Osnadian, and Richard. And big news, there may be an actual members only video coming soon. Your £1 might actually gain you something other than me mispronouncing all of your names at the end of each video. Okay, we're properly done now. I'm looking forward to the next episode in this series and opening the next package. Hopefully see you all then. Cheers guys.